Okay, so we've got After Effects open. Lots of windows, but don't worry, it'll all become clear hopefully what each of them is for. Generally speaking, we've got our different compositions that will be stored over here, and any files that we bring in, sounds or images, etc. Here we've got our composition viewer, which will be the bit where we see what's moving and the effects that we have on it and that sort of thing. And here is our layers and our timeline. Over on the right hand side we've got some panels or palettes, whatever you want to call them, such as effects or previewing and so on, that are generally useful. You may find that there are other things you want to access that aren't currently visible, and generally they'll be under window. So you've got all sorts of bits and pieces there. Character, for example, will be for text. If for any reason your workspace goes awry and things sort of go missing, you can go to Window, Workspace, and you can just go Reset Standard, and that will, actually if you want to reset, you can just press OK, and there we go. It doesn't look any different, but it just sort of gets you back to where you started from. To better demonstrate what these windows do, in this video we're going to import a file and look at the different ways that we can do that. Examine a composition and just have a little brief overview of the timeline. Okay, so to import things we go to File, Import, File. It could be that you've already got some other, multiple files that you want to bring in all at once, but in this instance it's just the one. There we go. So here you can see I've got Winter Window AI, which is an Adobe Illustrator file, and it says here import as footage. We can import it as footage, which means that we can either bring it all in as one layer, or we can bring it in as or bring in individual layers, or we can bring it in as a composition, which means that it brings in all the layers but keeps them separate. Or this one here, composition, so again the same thing, brings in all the layers but keeps them separate so that we can modify them individually. But this one doesn't resize anything to fit our composition, it retains the layer sizes. So that's the one that we're going to use, but just before I press open, hopefully if I just pop to Illustrator we can have a look at the document that I'm going to bring in. So this is just a simple black and yellow scene, and if I just turn the top layer off, there we go, we can see a few different things there. Just as you would normally create a document, we've got a series of layers, and I've separated the different objects onto those layers, so we can see we've got a sky at the background. Above that we've got just a circle for the moon. We've got some houses or rooftops. We've got a witch. We've got Santa. And on top of all of that we've got a window so that we can appear to be looking through it. Obviously these layers have been arranged so that things appear in the right order, and when we bring these into Illustrator, I'll just file and save that. And back in After Effects, there we go, Winter Window, there we go, and we're going to import it as a composition, retain layer sizes, and press Open. Okay, now over here you can see in the project window that we've got some things now, we've got some assets. We've got this, which is a composition, and if I double click it you can see that a composition is made up of one or more layers that exist over a certain amount of time. In this case it exists over 15 seconds. You can see 1, 2, 3, and the little S means seconds. Here we've got all the layers that make that up, so it's brought in all those layers. I know they're not in the right order here, but if we just look back down in our composition you can see the name of the composition on the tab here, and you can see the layers and they're in the right order. Just like Photoshop or Illustrator, we can hide layers, like that. It can make it easier to see what's going on. We can lock layers so that we can't accidentally fiddle with them. There we go. As if I go like that, I can move that around. There we go. Undo. An alternative to hiding layers is to make a layer solo. So if I press solo in this column on the window, you can see that the window is the only thing that's visible. It's a bit difficult when the sky's not on. There we go. Okay. We shan't worry too much about these things over here just yet, but what we have got to look at is the timeline. Now the timeline, as I said, is showing which of these layers exist over time and for how much time. This little thing here is called the playhead, and you can scroll that along, and because our image is just a still image, nothing happens over those 15 seconds. If we were to alter one of these so that they sort of appeared or disappeared, so let's say we don't want the witch to appear until 4 seconds, so we scroll the playhead along and you can see the time here. Sometimes it can be a bit challenging to actually get an exact time, but what we have got is we've got this thing here, zoom in to frame level or out to entire composition. So here on the tiny end, the little mountains, we are zoomed completely out of our timeline. We can see all of the time that the composition takes up, in this case the 15 seconds. If I just scroll that to the right a bit, you can see we zoom in to frame level, and you can see that the time has now changed to 2F, 3F and so on, like that, and we can actually click much more or drag the playhead much more accurately to a particular point. So let's say we drag it to 4 seconds and click on the witch here. Now what I've just done is I've double clicked on that layer, which is something that I've just done a little bit by accident, and you can see it's taken me to this black square, so it's isolated this layer so that I can look just at that. It's difficult to see though because the background of my composition is also black. I'm going to ignore that for the time being and just click back on this tab here to get to the composition again. I want you to press Alt and use the left square bracket, which is next to the P on your keyboard. Okay, and what that does is it chops off the beginning of this time here. So you can see we've got a big blank area now. What this means is that this particular layer, the witch, doesn't show up now until we hit this blue area. If we want her just to appear for a few seconds, we can get to, let's say, 10, and we can hit Alt and the right square bracket, and that chops the end off there. So we've got now our witch lasting for 6 seconds in between 4 and 10. We can actually just scroll back our playhead like that and press the space bar, and you can see that it will play through our animation. It's worth noting up here that it's not real time because it's having to process the images. It's not running at 30 frames a second. Okay, so there she is, she's gone again. Okay, I'll drag that back to the start. And up here we've got RAM preview. Okay, from current time, and I'm just going to press this button here, RAM preview. What that does is it runs through the animation, but it does it a lot more sort of quickly. The more complicated your animation is, the longer the RAM preview will take. But for this instance, it shouldn't take too long, and it's showing here that it is pretty much real time all the way along. It might still struggle here and there depending on your computer. So we've brought in files, we've imported files, we've looked at a composition and what it's made up of, and we've had a brief look at the timeline here to show that we can make things last for different lengths of time in our composition, and that will help us make animation. Now, I'm going to save this file, and in the next video we'll start moving some things around. Okay, so we'll go to File, Save As, Save As, and we're going to call it Winter Window as an After Effects project, and click Save. There we go, I'll replace that one. And there we go, we can see Winter Window, AEP, After Effects project, and that's all for the time being.